About 85% of people at some point in their lives are going to have back problems, probably severe enough to go seek some professional help. And so since it's so common, and I have had back problems in my past as well, I wanted to show you how I healed my back from lots of trial and error. And if you wanted to follow along, you would first want to get a doctor's approval. And it certainly wouldn't hurt to get a very specific diagnosis with some sort of imaging. Now, my favorite back machine is a physio ball. Amazing. You could do so many things with it, and they're cheap and so versatile that it's a must. Now, I don't know your specific back problem, so these exercises may or may not be appropriate for you. So take it easy, take it slow if you want to try these out. And if you want to follow along, here's my routine. Here's what I did. I always started with back extensions just to get everything warmed up. Easy back extensions is out here like this with the ball. And then as you move it in further and further, the harder they get. You can easily anchor your feet by placing them flat on a wall and then just roll back into the wall. And that friction will keep you down. Even if you go really aggressive with your thighs on the ball and your stomach on the ball, which is what I do now. But if you go too far forward, of course, the feet will slip off. And then it's just straight up, straight down, very controlled. Now, on a ball, you're going to be rolling over the top of the ball. And so it gets easier at the bottom and harder at the top, as opposed to a Roman chair where you've got one hinge right at your hips. And then wherever you put your hands makes it harder or easier. Out here, or even out here is really hard. Back here is really easy. So there's a lot of ways to modify it for your particular needs, but it's just doing reps, slow and controlled until it burns like the dickens. Of course, without any bad pain, just the good pain, which is the burn pain. And I do that for a while to warm up. And then I do straight out, down, straight out, down. Notice I don't come down all the way because I want to keep tension on these upper back muscles and trap muscles. And I do that until it's burning like the dickens. And now, keep them out, Superman, changing one at a time, and you'll feel those deep paraspinals really working and finishing off that low back burn and hamstrings and glutes, lots of stuff going on. So, of course, everybody's different. You just do what you can, but always push to a really good, comfortable burn. I say good burn because you should know the difference, of course, between bad pain and good pain. We're just looking for a burn in the muscles, not any kind of a tweak or any problems with the spine itself or any bad pain. You know what that feels like. Just keeping within your parameters for your particular case and modify accordingly with your own unique experiments. It's also important to note that I only go to a really good aggressive burn, not to failure or even approaching complete muscle fatigue, because this is a therapy program, not necessarily a strengthening program, although it really helped with that when I did it too. So what I do next is front foot elevated and then come down. It's a nice stable platform that's not going to flip. And then I just go as straight vertical as possible with my spine, head and shoulders back, and just stretch down into this. Back leg is as straight as possible, so my quad's contracting to try to get it straighter. I'm going to feel that stretch in my adductor and my hip flexors, especially pushing my pelvis forward and keeping my head and shoulders back and just holding. And I would do this for a minute. I'm using my hands a little bit just for stability, but mostly just sinking down into it just to really feel that stretch. Getting lots of stuff here, stretching tons of things here. Minute, and then I switch. Slowly, always in, and slowly, always out. Down in, nice and deep, easing into it. Your sides will be different, so notice that too, and just adjust accordingly to have as close a posture as possible between the two sides. Again, hands are here just kind of helping and balancing and easing in and out as much as I need to keep really good form, but not too much. I don't want to offload and use all my arms. Hands are just a guide. Back leg as straight as I can. Feeling all that stuff stretching out. And that's what I did next. That was number 2 in the routine. And then the third thing I would do is straight body, straight up. And just hold. Maybe pulse if you want to try to fatigue yourself faster, but just holding until everything is on fire. Then this knee comes way up. Straddle with your elbows or up on your hands if this is too much of a stretch. And just holding here and then lift and hold it up there until you can't. And this one's okay to fail out on because it's safe and you're not loading the spine, but you're getting those deep muscles, glutes, abductors, even some deeper pelvis muscles that are really going to help to strengthen and release. And then when that's too hard, put your knee down and keep your foot up and then go to failure again. And then when you hit failure, other side, same thing. Start with the leg straight up, hold it as high as you can. And then when you fail, high as you can. And then when you fail, touch the knee down and keep that up until you fail. And then when I did both sides to failure, I'd kind of stay in that position and I would just stretch out. This is mostly piriformis, but you're also getting glutes. And then you can make it a stronger stretch by going towards your foot and or straightening that leg out a scotch and just hanging out about a minute. Doesn't take long. You're going to feel everything slowly release. Make sure you're not overstretching so it can slowly release. And then we switch. The other side gets a turn. Down nice and aggressive. Adjusting to make it a great stretch. No pain, just a great stretch. So everything can release and relax and stretch out. Yeah, buddy. Then I get into the butterfly. Hold this about a minute, making sure that I'm pushing my stomach forward. So I'm arching, shoulders back, chin back, as straight as possible with my spine. About a minute. Then I cross over. One leg on top. Stretch out those hips to feel this nice and deep. About a minute. Other side. About a minute. Switch the foot that's on top. About a minute. Other side. About a minute. And then stand back up and go straight down using the hands to get into the position and just hold down here. Now notice how straight I am and my low back is arched, which pushes my pelvis forward, forward pelvic tilt. Trying to get head and shoulders back, straight as possible with my spine, as vertical as possible. but it's arched as much as I can to really shoot that pelvis forward into that forward pelvic tilt. And hold this about a minute. And while I'm doing that, you can also see I'm pushing out on my knees. As my hands come down, my knees go out. Always comfortable. It should feel good, never painful. Comfortable stretch, straight out, and just little slow pulses like this. Everyone's different. You might not be able to get all the way down. And in that case, you would put something underneath your heels as high as you need to be able to get all the way down. And the thing to look for is this right here. You do not want to go so far down that your back starts to go like this. You only want to go far enough down that your back can stay like this, and just holding that position and just noticing what's stretching, appreciating it. Again, no pain, just a good stretch. Should feel good. And I usually did this for about 2 minutes. And then hands and knees for some cat-cow. Straight up to a hunch and back down to an arch. Hunch, hunch the back, arch the back. Very slow and controlled, exploring how far you can go. And you might notice that with each rep, you get a little bit bigger range as you start to loosen up and open up. Yeah, buddy. Just a minute or so. And that's the routine that healed my back. Yeah, buddy. And then once you have healed your back and there's no more pain and no more problems, here's how to keep it nice and healthy and strong, and to keep all those muscles talking to each other, especially in the posterior chain, because good communication of all those muscles is what keeps a healthy back. And then if you find yourself doing a lift wrong, your back doesn't freak out because of the good communication between all those muscles in the posterior chain, all the way down from your calves, all the way up to your hamstrings, glutes, low back, and all the way up to your skull. So to teach that communication and keep that communication, this one's called the Founder, invented by a chiropractor. I have modified it somewhat over the years. We're going to start with arms back, shoulders down. You'll feel your lats engage. Hands back behind you now. Slight bend in the knees. And now you're going to hinge at the waist. Bending forward at the waist, nice and slow. And keep an arch in the low back. Big arch in the low back, which will make your hamstrings stretch sooner. See, if you're doing this, you're not going to feel a hamstring stretch. But if you're arching that low back, you're going to get that hamstring stretch sooner than later. If you have really flexible hamstrings, you'll go down really low, but whatever it takes, as long as you have that arch. If you don't have that arch, you may never get the stretch. Arch, arch, arch. And holding, this is part of the exercise. So even while I'm talking, this is part of it. Still pulling the shoulders back and then reaching behind with your hands so it keeps the shoulders down away from your ears. And then slowly with the hands like this. Nothing else is moving. It's just the shoulder joint. Arms stay straight. Hands are coming down. Hands come forward. You'll notice your center of gravity changing, but it's not going to put you on your toes. You're just going to adjust. So you're still even 50-50 toes to heels. Reach as high as you can and out as far as you can. Straight hands, straight out. Still arching that low back. Keeping that arch. And you're going to feel that low back contracting big time. And the hamstrings are still stretching. So you're low enough and the knees haven't changed. It's just that slight bend in the knees. And hold until it burns. You don't go to failure on this one, just a good burn. Reaching out, you'll feel the burn in your traps, maybe even your lats. Not that they're working, but that they're stretching because you're reaching so far out. And then slowly coming down, barely moving. barely moving, crazy slow, crazy slow. Now you can round. See, I'm coming out of the arch, I'm rounding. All the way down until your fingers are on the tops of your shoes. Now you can relax your low back. Now, if you can't get your fingers on the tops of your shoes and you're up here somewhere, that means you should bend your knees more so you can bring it down. And then once you get into that position and put lots of weight on your hands, on your feet, now adjust your knees, bring them back until you get that hamstring stretch back. Everyone's different, so everybody's angle is different. And your low back is rounded now. It's not arched anymore, it's rounded because we're stretching it. And that's why I have so much weight on my hands, on my feet. I'm stretching out that low back and I'm breathing and I'm relaxing, feeling the release and the relief and the good stretch. Adjusting the knees so the hamstrings are still stretching. Good stretch, not too much, no pain. Should feel good. And low back, same thing. Now, open hands. And I'm going to push my hands against my shins because now I'm going to stand up slowly, keeping the back rounded. Slowly coming up, barely moving, sliding, pushing my hands into my legs as I'm slowly sliding up over my knees, up the thighs, all the way up. Stand up. And if you want to do another, we're already in position. Straight back, shoulders back, arch the back, shoulders down, knees slightly bent, and then go into the next rep. Rinse and repeat. Yeah, buddy. Big old ball is also my favorite ab machine. Abs and obliques are part of the core. This is too. You see all these people talking about core work and they're just doing their abs, but the core is all the way around. So we did a lot of this already with this routine. And now we're going to use this ball for starting with the stretch. You always sit down on it with really wide feet. And then as you walk forward with those wide feet, you just lean back until you're on top of it. And we start with the stretch. So everybody has different size Swiss balls. And you want to have one big enough that you can put your head on the ball so your neck can relax too. Then your arms are out and then just stretching. Slowly rolling back, making sure your feet don't get too light. You don't want your feet to come off and fall backwards. And just slowly back and forth, relaxing and stretching. And you'll really feel the spine decompressing as you slowly roll back and forth. We're going to do this again at the end of the ab routine. Just a minute or so. And then hands go back behind the head. And then crunch up. And hold it. You should barely be able to get your shoulders off. If you can get them off too far, that means you're too far this way. And you need to roll backwards. And if anytime you do roll back, reset your feet so your knees are 90 degrees. Now, chin pointing straight to the ceiling, face looking straight up. Big crunch up and down just enough to about halfway so your abs are still contracting. At the bottom of every rep, your abs are still contracting. They never relax. They never release. Now back up and down. Up and down. Shooting your chin to the ceiling, face looking straight up. And stop at the top and twist. Big range, slow motion. You're going to be tempted to pull your chin to your chest because that makes the lever shorter, or to bring your hands down because that shifts the weight easier. But keep them back there and keep that face up. Also, you'll notice just my fingertips are holding my head, so I can't yank on my head and my elbows are wide, so I can't crank on my neck. Now back to center, back to crunch. High as you can, halfway down. High as you can, halfway down. Doesn't have to be a big range, and you're not even coming completely off. Just your shoulder blades, maybe. Up to the mid-back, maybe, but not too high, because then you're just not adjusted right, forward or back on that ball. And stop at the top and twist again. Slow motion, big range. Now suck the stomach in and keep it in. Pull it in so we can get that transverse. Pulling the belly button towards the backbone. Now pick a side and pulse. So now your high elbow is pulsing straight up to the ceiling. Chin is still away from the chest. Face looking straight up. And your low shoulder blade is trying to come up off the ball. If it's hard to get it up off the ball, that's great because that means you're back far enough. If it's easy to get it off the ball, you're forward too much. You just need to roll backwards more. And now the other side. Highest inch. Pulses. Your high elbow is shooting straight to the ceiling. You're still looking at the ceiling. And your low shoulder blade is trying to come up. And back to center. Hold it high. And now we're going to draw a tiny circle on the floor with the ball, holding high, pushing the low back down hard into the ball, heavy low back, still sucking the belly button towards the backbone, and then finish other direction. As you're crunching up as high as you can and sucking that stomach in, holding it in. And then relax again. Head on the ball, arms straight out so you can feel the chest stretching. And then slowly rolling back and forth, decompressing that spine, reversing the normal posture that everybody has during the day as they're sitting and reaching forward for a steering wheel or for a computer keyboard or on their phone, always hunching forward. This is reversing that and showing your spine that it can go that way and reminding it what good posture feels like instead of that forward head posture and that forward upper back hunch that everybody's getting now. It started about 30 years ago when computers came on the scene. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.